Hey, welcome back everybody. Craig Peterson here. Hard to believe the time is almost up, but I guess that's the way that goes sometimes. But don't fret, I'll be back on Wednesday morning at about 7:34, and I hope to see you then. So let's get down to our last articles here of the day. I want to just do a little follow-up to my last segment. I want to put a little warning out there. There is a new piece of ransomware out there that people are able to buy and use out on the dark web. It's called Lockbit, and it is kind of revolutionary in the way it works. I described how it works in the last segment. There's a lot more detail. Obviously, I'm not going to go into that with you guys here, but it lets them in, and it lets them look at your data. And if you don't pay up, by the way, to get your data back, they will threaten to release it onto the wide internet, and many times they often do. And that might be worse for you than paying the ransom. Kind of depends on what the value is of some of the data that you have, right? And if you're in a regulated industry, it could cost you your whole business. And now in certain regulated industries, like in defense department subcontractors even, there is substantial jail time. So it's, wow, a lot to think about. So let's get into the last couple articles here. One is Google Play, the Google Play Store. And this article came out from Ars Technica last week. Dan Gooden wrote it. And it's talking about how Google Play has been spreading advanced malware for years. Now, we've talked before about hundreds of apps that have been taken down from the Google Play Store because they have been, in fact, causing some serious problems. And in this case, researchers from a security firm called Kaspersky Labs. Now, I mentioned Kaspersky. They're not bad, okay? They have antivirus software, which I think is pretty much absolutely useless in this day and age. In fact, I think it really is. A lot of people agree with me. And Kaspersky Lab is over in Russia, which is why our State Department is kind of a little iffy with it. Our, federal government, I'm not sure it was the State Department involved here, but they're kind of iffy about it because it is in Russia, and Russia is kind of an enemy of ours. Therefore, we shouldn't trust it. So Kaspersky Labs software is something you shouldn't be using. But I used it many years ago, and I was pretty impressed. This was when they first started. I don't know. When was that? 10, 15, maybe longer years ago? They had some stuff out for Linux, and they were the only one. So, it's kind of, you kind of have to use them. But Kaspersky is saying that they have found malicious apps from the same advanced group that seeded Google's official marketplace for at least the last 4 years. Now, Google removed some of the recent versions of the malware after Kaspersky reported them, and Google looked at them and said, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, these are bad. There's another security firm known as Dr. Web that also reported them. But it's not clear what really prompted the move here, because third-party markets have had for a long time these backdoor apps. And that's why, again and again and again, I warn people, never ever root your device. People love to do that. I had fun doing that 10 years ago, I think, just so I could get in and say, wow, this is an actual terminal, Unix shell. Wow, this is great. And poked around and thought it was really neat. But the problem with rooting, part of the reason a lot of people do it is so they can avoid the official stores. Well, in the case of the Google Play Store, which is the official store for your Android apps, it turns out there were command and control domains that were set up that have been used in some of these applications in the Google Play Store to spread malware. Okay, it goes on, Ocean Lotus, Sea Lotus, there's a whole bunch of other ones. So they've just been repeatedly bypassing Google's security checks. They know what Google does, and just in trying to keep malicious apps out of the Play Store. In one method, they submitted a very basic version of an app that was just benign. Yeah, it really was a desktop screen thingy, that people liked. And then after the app was accepted, they had a patch that was submitted, and the patch had the backdoor in it. They had another approach which required almost no permissions during installation, and then later on requested them dynamically using some code that was hidden inside another executable file that was part of the whole application that you downloaded. And then one of the more recent apps posed as a web browser cleaner. So you got to be very, very careful. These guys are very clever. It's bad enough to use the Google Play Store and get an infected app, or much less frequently using the Apple Store and getting infected. The Apples are much better about keeping some of the malware out, but it still happens. But it's much better to get apps from the official stores, where at least they're trying to do some of the blocks, than it is to root your phone and go to these unofficial stores. Now, for those of you who like to run some of the code that isn't fully approved by Apple, there is a new feature coming out I'm not sure, I think it's the next minor version of the iOS operating system, but it might be the next major version. And what it does is it lets you run non-approved apps. So it has an even more special lockdown container so that you can start putting apps on that are not part of Apple's App Store. So that's going to be interesting as well. But that should remove the need in almost all cases to root your device. And if you are an application developer, it is not expensive. It's like $100 to become an Apple developer. You can have signed keys. You can release hundreds. I think it used to be like 1,000, but it's at least 100 copies of your app out there for testing before you hit any limits at all. So, think twice about it. And if somebody says, hey, try my app, be very, very cautious. If it really is their app, okay, fine. But if it's a potential bad guy, don't run the app. Now, we also have another little warning here from Microsoft about some hidden malware. In this case, they're talking about hidden malware that's hidden in pirated movie files. So what these bad guys are doing right now is so many people are sharing movie files, right? So they'll rip a DVD or Blu-ray, and then they will put it up on a torrent site or some other website and share it. Well, in this case, what's happening is there's some malicious Visual Basic script that's put into zip files that are posing as downloads. And there's two specifically that have been found. One is for John Wick 3, and the other is for Contagion. But it's also in some other popular movies, but those are the two we found it in the most. And Microsoft researchers are now detecting an active malware campaign. So the attackers are embedding this malicious payload, into the files that are bundled with these pirated films. So you download it, you might have an MP4 or MKV or whatever the format is that the movie was ripped in. And then there might be some other files, there might be a JPEG of the snapshot of the cover. There might be a text file, and an info file, a zip file, all these different types of files that are in there. So be very careful. Right now it's really unclear who's behind this campaign, and it began to appear on April 11th, according to Cyberscoop. And Microsoft says the use of Tor downloads is consistent with observations that indicate attackers are reusing old techniques to take advantage of the coronavirus pandemic. So again, it's the same old thing. I think sometimes I feel like a broken record. I know many of you have never heard these warnings before, and a couple of you guys know better and still are doing things you shouldn't be doing. So I know I'm not a broken record here. But It seems the focus with this is in distribution in Spanish-speaking countries like Mexico and Chile, and the attackers don't seem to be hitting U.S. film pirates with this campaign. But there are other campaigns out there where the bad guys are doing exactly that. They are trying to spread it, and they are putting it into torrent files. So be very, very careful out there. It's kind of like rooting your phone. You just never know what you're going to be doing. So I started out the show today. We talked about some coronavirus fraud that's going on. We've got stimulus fraud. We've got these tracker apps that are trying to convince you to click because it's going to show you what the spread is. There's an account takeover fraud I talked about last week that requires cashing out the victim's account through this mule system. You'll find that on my website as well at craigpeterson.com/subscribe, so you get all of this stuff every week. Fraudulent credit card accounts are going to surge, online loan application fraud, social engineering messages from your bank, deep social engineering really is hitting the United States. So we talked about all that stuff today. We also talked about James Dyson. I love this. He is providing challenge cards for your kids, your grandkids, your school class, whatever it might be, whether you're homeschooling or teaching at regular school, right? You'll find it at the James Dyson Foundation, D-Y-S-O-N, James Dyson Foundation, challenge cards. Look it up. They're great to have if you're a parent, a grandparent, great-grandparent who might have kids coming over for the day of the weekend. Stimulate their minds. Get them involved in these science projects. There's 44 of them. They're all kind of based around engineering, getting kids to think. But it's fun stuff. Making a volcano, having an egg sucked into a bottle. Just all kinds of really cool stuff that's going to be great for your kids and grandkids. And then I got more training coming up, so make sure you know about it. And the only way to find out when I'm doing it, because I'm starting to do some pop-up trainings when there is something hitting the news. Plus, I've got some other courses and stuff I've been putting together and going to be releasing. So to find out about those, you have to go to craigpeterson.com/subscribe. craigpeterson.com/subscribe, and then I'll be letting you know every week. You'll be getting my newsletter about all the latest. You'll find out about all of the trainings I'm doing, the free tutorials, etc., etc. Anyways, have a great week, and we'll be back on Wednesday morning, 7:34, with Matt Gagnon as we talk about the latest that's hitting us next week. Take care, everybody. Listen to Craig Peterson on WGAN.